Interesting scenario. We were going to buy a deal in it was in North Carolina, and we are going to use a manager that I know buys a lot of properties in North Carolina. So I was talking to the broker, and I said, "Why aren't they buying it?" And he's like, "Well, they toured it. They don't really love it, but they love to manage it." And I was just like, "Wait a second. They don't want to buy it, but they'll manage it. So they want to have no risk whatsoever." So the question I have, if someone, and I know the construction side is new, but maybe on the management side, has there been deals you guys have looked at? And I don't know if you fee manage or the management is strictly your own stuff. Have there been deals you guys looked at that you see someone try and reach out to you for management or soon to be construction, where you look at like, what would you do? Would you say, hey guys, we're going to pass, it's not for us? Or would you try and help, or, how does that look? Because that's always interested me when you're using a third party manager that also owns in the market and they're not competitive on the site. And it's exactly what they would do. If you're a Class A manager and it's a C-class property, I get it. But if it's a heavy lift and it's everything you do and you didn't buy it and someone asked you to manage it, what would you do?
So if I understand the question correctly, if somebody comes to me and they're already under contract for a deal and it's a heavy lift deal, then the question is, okay, well, why didn't you pick up that deal? One, probably just because we didn't see it and we didn't know about it.
Okay.
That's the only reason that would have happened, or we just didn't have the equity. Our equity was tied up. We didn't have any dry powder at the time. But I think part of the other question was, do we fee manage? Yes, we do fee manage for clients. And do we fee manage deals that we wouldn't buy? Absolutely. There are some deals that we're fee managing that we even help them through due diligence, and we try and show them, hey, your numbers are off here and here. They don't want to listen. They believe in their numbers. So, okay, you do it, but just know that, it wasn't our recommendation, and then 6 months, a year, 2 years into the road and things don't perform, and they wonder why. It's like, well, we're just a service here. We're providing service to management, but we did advise you in the beginning.
That's shocking to me. Like that same thing happening on a deal that I know about right now. And it's the manager has given them no indication that their numbers are going to work. And they keep trying to make them like, it's what I'm saying. Like if you go into it with, hey, I think the salaries are going to be higher and they think they're going to be lower, like they are going to be wrong. But so now I'm leaning more towards Chris's side. I guess we do something a little bit different, but there are probably a ton of people out there that just don't listen. And I know there's a ton of people that don't listen, but it's just interesting to me that you would bring in a manager that the visions aren't aligned going into it. Because that just seems to me like down the road, it's just something's going to give.
Well, so I want to play devil's advocate really quick, and I want to cut you off. The question I have though is it's not possible to do, like the property doesn't support it? And I know the answer to that is sometimes going to be yes, but could it also be that, hey, if I don't believe in something, like I'm not going to go the extra mile or put in, my full effort to make that work, right? Like if I believe we can reduce expenses by 10% and it's, we start running into some trouble, I'm probably going to work that little bit harder to make it work. But if I upfront said, hey, we're not going to be able to do it, but we'll give it a try. Let's call a spade a spade. The first time that problem comes up, there's no way you're working as hard as you would have if you believed in it, whether it's possible or not. For me, if I would, I wouldn't do that. Even if I thought it was possible, I guess where I'm going is this. If I came to you, Joseph, and I said, hey, I think we can, push income by 10%, reduce expenses by 10%, just super high level. And you said, income, I think you're right. Expenses, I think you're wrong. Even if I thought in my bones it was possible, I don't know if I'd do the deal unless I had another manager, because I don't think I would have the confidence that it would get done, because I don't think you believe as much as I believe that it can be done. And I think, John, it was really interesting that you said alignment. I think it more often than not, the property probably could do it, but I think because there's that misalignment that it doesn't happen. I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
Well, I think it depends, particularly when it comes to income, because when it comes to income, there are certainly caps as to what a market can sustain and cannot sustain.
Of course.
And what we see is just flagrant errors in the underwriting, as far as the common one is loss to lease. I don't know why nobody knows how to calculate loss to lease, but just these ridiculous loss to lease estimates of 1 to 2% when they're increasing rent 10%. I'm like, dude, that math doesn't even work. And so they're basing an entire pro forma off of that, and they wonder, it has nothing to do with the operator. They just messed up the numbers. They didn't do the math right. So it's nothing to do with the operation. And we'll say, hey, your loss to lease number is too low, and they say, no, it's fine. Okay. So there's loss to lease. The manager has no control over loss to lease. They'll increase the rent to whatever you tell them to increase it to, but the loss to lease is going to be calculated by the software as far as what the actual in-place leases are versus what the market rate is. So that's kind of one of the things that we see. But I agree with you. You shouldn't be doing deals with managers that if they're telling you, hey, that if there's not alignment between both parties saying, yeah, we believe in this and this project and in this business plan, I say don't do it. But then also on the flip side, you got these managers who are just 100% yes to everything you're doing. And if they're not challenging you on anything, then you also got to be concerned as asset managers. Like, well, you got to be a little bit honest with yourself. Like, I'm not that good. Am I really like nailing perfect and I didn't make anything here? I'm buying a property that's not even in my market and I did the whole thing perfect day one. Come on, man.
Well, we were looking at a 80 unit deal in Daytona Beach about like maybe even 2 years ago now. And we went to our manager in Jacksonville, Florida. It's only like an hour and a half drive. And we were like, would you manage this? And at the time she said yes. So we went down and looked, and it was another heavy lift. It was like a D+ property in like a B location. Like it was the eyesore of the entire thing. And it was like a 20, 30 a door project. And she loved it. We loved it, wanted to do it. What happened was she got 3 new projects in Jacksonville, Florida. And she's like, guys, I can't do an 80 unit property in Daytona Beach. She was like, it just doesn't make sense for me. So we talked to like 1 or 2 or 3 other managers, and it was like, all of them were just like, yes, we can do it. One of them even sent me back a pro forma. They managed in Daytona Beach, and it was way lower. And I was like, guys, like, what is this? And they were like, well, we don't think you can do it. And I was like, okay, well, here's mine. They're like, okay, we can do that. I was like, well, how am I supposed to turn around and feel comfortable when you sent me something that was like, it was 30% below or like 20% below what we had put on paper? Because they were talking about doing like, they would have been the wrong manager anyway. They buy stuff, they don't really renovate, they hold and then try to sell for low cap rates. So wouldn't have been the right manager anyway, but they owned 6 assets in Daytona Beach. I was like, okay, let's see what they have to say. And it just would have never worked. But to your point, they were just, yeah, we can do it. And I was like, how does that fill me with any sort of confidence? So I hear you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm worried, with this, there's a kind of a big wave of ever since 506C and really the proliferation of the online, syndicators these days, raising money from people all over the country and buying stuff all over the country, which you guys are going to teach me how you do this. Cause I feel a novice that I'm only bought in Houston. Like I'm afraid almost to go outside of Houston, and cause I just wouldn't even know what to do almost. I'd feel a bit lost, but yeah.
It's interesting because we were just talking about, I'm sure of Nitya Capital, right?
Yeah.
And they're massive. They're way bigger than we are. They're like 2.5 billion AUM, and they're only in Texas. So, I don't necessarily think, you need to buy all over the country. And we scaled way down. So like 2 years ago, we would kind of buy like, the eastern half of the country, take out the Northeast, the very north, Chicago, Milwaukee area, and like Texas. Everything else, we were like, we'll buy a great deal in any market almost. That's, somewhat easy to get to. So we were in Alabama and Mississippi and Florida and the Carolinas and Tennessee and Ohio, and it just became too much. And we just scaled back to, a few cities in the Midwest and a few cities in Florida. And that's all, we focus on buying in now. So we only have a few assets left in Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Carolinas. But everything else is in Ohio and Florida right now. So we've scaled way back too, because it just doesn't make sense. And I actually brought it up the other day. I was like, maybe we scale it back further and only go one area. Because to your point, it's, the more you're in an area, the better you know it. I don't think it's, a lot of the stuff you can transfer out. The same way you spent 6 months, learning about Houston and calling people, you could do that now in, 3 to 6 months again, and you're going to be in a way better position if you decide to go into DFW or Austin or wherever, Corpus Christi or, whatever other things you're looking at. So I don't think it's as hard, especially if you're in the same state. It's somewhat easy. It just takes a little bit of time, and, you just underwrite, as many deals as you can, as quickly as you can. And, you watch how things trade and you go. And
sure I understand.
sorry. But yeah, it's especially if you're somewhat close. I don't think it's as difficult as you think, especially with all the information that's available online today. If you could do it in 2011, 2012 with, limited resources halfway around the world, I have some pretty good confidence you could pull it off today.
That was different though. I was working for Exxon, making a very big salary. So I felt pretty invincible back then. Now it's a different story. So that's been my plan to go kind of nationwide, is once we've got a pretty big portfolio, then to start dabbling in other markets. But for now, Houston's got over 2,000 apartment complexes to choose from. We know this market really well. So we're not too worried about it. There's a lot of deals to buy, especially when you look at the outer areas like Corpus and San Antonio and Dallas. There's plenty of opportunity there.